Hello and welcome. This is a divine masculine check-in for masculines with Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, Mars, and Venus. I've gone ahead and pre-selected the cards and laid them out. We'll go ahead and dive into this reading. If you have any questions or you'd like more information, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get rolling. So what I have first is I picked out a card for the masculine's current energies, and this is kind of what they've been going through most of May and will still be going through, and kind of their overall space. And we have the medicine wheel, which is continuation. And what this card really says to me is that the Cancer DMs are, well, some of them are still in karmic learning lessons that they're either having trouble getting it or they get it, but they're refusing to learn the lesson. And so Spirit's like, all right, we're going to stay on the merry-go-round, I guess. And there are other masculines that they've learned some recent lessons, but they're not quite out of the wheel yet. The good news is that with this energy, it is very much... May is the 5th month, which is the month of the Hierophant, and so this energy very much fits with that. It's still a month of learning lessons for them, and until we do the June reading, it'll be difficult to know where they're going to be in June, but I very much sense that for our watery, empathic Cancer DMs, this is definitely going to be flowing with them at least into the beginning of June, if not a little further beyond. And just keep in mind, no matter what it looks like in the 3D, medicine wheel is very, very powerful. And there's many very ancient religions that use some form of a medicine wheel, and they are all a part of a healing dance. And so these masculines they're going through what they need to go through to learn and to become divine. Some of them are already kind of in a conscious divine path, and some of them are not being very divine right now, but all of them are on this path. And I'm really being drawn to the little circles, dots up here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See? 5, the Hierophant in there, which is also earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. They're really being put through their paces, and that might include with you, Spirit using you, their divine feminine, as a tool to help them get through this too. So make sure that you're doing your meditation and staying grounded. And remember also that we reflect our partners. So if this is the energy that you are seeing them in, remember that in some way you are also in that energy. And so this is a great time to focus on your healing and not over focus on their journey. I also created some cards called Divine Guidance, and I pulled a couple of them because they help provide some good clarity to these cards. And what we got for this main energy of Cancer DMs is receptive mode is the answer, and you or someone you love are trapped in a victim mindset. Remember that no one else can make you feel any way. You are the only one in control of and responsible for how you feel. And that's a part of why it's funny, because I laid these cards out and I have connected with the energy, but I have not actually read the cards. And so I'm kind of laughing a little bit at that confirmation right in there that, there are many of these masculines who are still caught in kind of a martyrhood. And for some of you divine femmes, it might be time for you to be willing to stand in your empress power. If you want your divine masculine to be an emperor, you can't treat them like a page. You can't treat them like a knight. And you certainly can't treat them like a king if they're not acting like a king. And there's a fair amount of them that aren't even acting at the page level yet. And if they're not, yeah, don't go into karmic energy yourself. Don't be vindictive, but don't be babying them. Don't be giving them all the extra love and light that you would give to them as an emperor. Instead, be real with them. If they're acting, if they're not acting right, don't be afraid to call them on it. They're look all over online. What a healthy, secure man looks for in a healthy, secure woman is someone who knows how to call him on his BS without being unnecessarily unkind. Because we all have our moments of being in our BS. And think about that when you do it. Like, how would you want to be called out? Or how would you feel if you were calling someone out in the way that you are? And, you know, stand in your truth, and he will be more likely to stand in his truth. And, if you've been, I get a sense that there's a fair amount of feminines, especially dealing with Cancer DMs. My DM is a Cancer sun, that it sometimes can feel easier to allow the BS to happen to avoid conflict or to try to maintain connection, or because you know that they're afraid of conflict, etc. That's not a healthy dynamic. And for those of you that are experiencing that, that it starts with you. You have to be willing to, one, recognize that you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to be moody and temperamental at times. But it is up to you to improve on those each time. And in many ways, with a Cancer DM, you set the pace of how things go. And if you allow BS, you're going to get more BS, and you have to be willing to risk that the connection might go dark for a while when you call them out on it, especially if they're stuck in this victim mindset. Somebody stuck in victim mode, they don't like being called out on it because it makes them face themselves. But that's exactly what's needed, and especially if you're on a twin flame journey or soulmate journey, I mean, you get the choice of either accidentally triggering each other through everything or intentionally triggering each other through things. And quite frankly, it's usually a lot more productive when you're intentional about it. Anyways, the second card that we have over here is the lessons and energies that Spirit is putting these Cancer DMs through for the end of May. It might carry on past that. It might have already started a little bit before, but this is definitely going to be the theme and emphasis of this last week of May for Cancer DMs. And what we have is the cave retreat. And what I'm getting the sense of is that there's going to be a fair amount of you, whether you see this reading or not, who are going to call your DMs on their BS, especially if you see them stuck in that victim mode and in that wheel, and you're doing your healing work and they're not doing theirs. It makes sense, and that can cause a retreat, but that is what Spirit wants. And for those of you that have Cancer DMs who are in third-party karmic situations, it is very likely that their karmic is also going to be utilized by Spirit to do things that drive your masculine deeper into their internal caves, because that's what this cave is really all about. It's about going into introspective moments and really thinking about who you are and what do you want and what's your purpose, and are you happy with the things that you have right now, and what can you do or not do. And it's also, a cave the cave is also sort of about echoes too. And what I get the sense of is that a lot of these Cancer DMs are going to be shown echoes of their own behavior. And a fair amount of them aren't going to like what they see. They're not going to like what they feel. But that's the whole point. I have another card in that deck that it didn't come out, but it's really feeling relevant right now, is that Spirit is going to continue to make you more and more uncomfortable until you actually choose to change and grow. And for any masculine that's, in the medicine wheel energy, they have asked for healing. They are doing that dance because they asked for it, and they might be in denial of that. They might not be fully conscious of the fact that they asked for it, but they asked for it. There's no assertion in terms of, like, Spirit doesn't force us to do anything, but it can sometimes feel like that when we ask for things and we don't realize what we were really asking for. Or maybe we were, like, in really intense emotions at the moment and sent rockets up for things to manifest that we didn't really think would happen. And because we didn't overfocus on them, they happened faster. And I get the sense that there are a fair amount of Cancer DMs who did that, and they're not aware right now, or they're in denial of the fact that they asked for this healing. And they're the I can hear some of their guides coming in being like, you're so stubborn. You asked for this healing and now you're being a stubborn jackass about receiving it and learning your lessons. Well, guess what? We're your spirit guides for a reason. We're twice as stubborn as you are, and we know you better than you know yourself, and we're going to put you through your paces to learn these lessons. And you can fight it if you want. It's going to happen either way. And the cards that we got with this are, now is a great time to unleash your creative and artistic side, and advice from Hawk. When we feel unhappy or fear situations aren't working as we want them to, it's often because we're too focused on one small part. Step back and look from an aerial view to see the truth. And I get a sense that the artistic part, it has a lot to do with the cave. And Cancers in particular usually tend to be very artistic types as it is. And it's very likely that a lot of these Cancer DMs are going to be putting their feelings into music, or allowing them to come out while they're playing music or listening to music or doing something artistic. And artistic doesn't necessarily have to mean music or drawing or poetry. It could, artistry for them could be working on a project or a craft or something. You know, there's many different ways that could come out, but either way, spirit is going to be driving them more towards that sort of stuff. And the advice from Hawk, oftentimes a victim mode comes from, being too close in perspective. You're only looking at what's right here instead of stepping back and looking at the whole picture. And so spirit is really trying to work with them as the end of May nears to help them really get that, to stand back, look at the wider perspective, the long-term perspective, not just how am I going to feel right now, but how am I going to feel in a year about this? How is this going to affect my family in 5 years from this? How is this going to affect my job or my career or my relationship with my divine partner? And I guess what I'm feeling is divine femmes, for those of you feeling called to call out some bullshit, don't hesitate right now. This last week of May is where they really need it, and where spirit is saying that you can help play a part in their healing by being willing to withdraw, by being willing to be in that Empress state. And the Empress is, she is love and she is kindness, but she's also, she doesn't take no shit, She doesn't take anybody's BS. She doesn't have to. She knows her worth. She knows she's comfortable. She knows she's got plenty of people willing to worship her, and she's got other options for divine partners too, if need be. She's not the type to sit there and go, "Oh, well, you don't want to do what I want, so I'll just figure out a way to make it work for all of us." No. She says, "This is what needs to happen," and it happens. And it happens because she knows that people will listen to her. And those that don't are going to get their karma. She doesn't have to provide consequences to them other than giving her attention to herself and to other people, which is really to be, you really got to believe, divine femmes, that your attention is the most valuable thing ever, especially to your divine masculine, even if they pretend like it's not, even when they're being bratty or petulant, it is. It really is. Anyways, I pulled some cards over here with my, what's it called, my Barbara Walker tarot deck. It's a little bit of a darker deck, but I like it. And these cards are for what these Cancer DMs went through in mid-May, or at least the theme of what they went through. And what we have is the Pope, which is funny, right? May, number 5. And the Princess of Pentacles, which is the Page of Pentacles. and the reversed Seven of Swords, opposition. Now, out of all of these in particular, the Seven of Swords sticks out because in upright, I like that these cards often attach words to the top. It is definitely usually opposition, but it's also in the regular Rider Through Right deck. It's about strategizing and planning and kind of testing the waters. It's also about thievery and duplicity and cheating. And in reverse, it is most often that you are faced with the consequences of doing the things that you do in upright seven. Especially because even if you have every good intention of what you think you have good intentions in what you're plotting with an upright Seven of Swords, there's still a more honorable way to do it. And it still indicates somebody who's not standing in their truth, neither in their own thoughts or in the words that they speak or the actions that they allow themselves to go through. And so what this tells me is that these Cancer DMs are feeling it. They're feeling how their opposition to learning what Spirit has been presenting them with, to having strong boundaries, to being honorable to being divine masculines, they're feeling it. Even if they're not in a state, if they're in a victim mode state, they might not be consciously recognizing it, but they're feeling it. And you might even notice them withdrawing a little bit, or you might notice them being extra whiny or wishy-washy, or even passive-aggressive. But either way, they've been feeling this through mid-May. And with the, I was to say with the Hierophant, the Pope in there. I mean that is about lessons, and it has a lot to do with lessons about commitment, spirituality, and sacred knowledge, and especially to do with ancestry. And because it is associated with Taurus, it often also is attached a lot to materialism. So it is very likely that these DMs with strong Cancer placements have been they've probably been trying to overfocus on work or materialistic things, or if they're in a third party karmic situation, they've been trying to focus on I want to say the shallower aspects of it, like trying to pretend that they're happy in the situation that they're in, or that everything is all sunshine and roses, because the Hierophant, being the Pope, is a bit of pomp and circumstance, too. And through the mid-May, this has still been, people have mostly been allowing it, probably including you, Divine Femmes, like going, yeah, all right, you're happy, sure, la, la, la. But with the Page of Pentacles in there, a seed was planted that, what I'm getting the image of is that some of it was from Divine Femmes, some of it was direct from Spirit, some of it was from friends or family of theirs, but they've been getting called on their bullshit a fair amount in this mid-May area, and it's the seeds are not just starting to be planted, they're starting to pop their heads up, and the roots are starting to grow. And because they have that, it's like not duplicitous, they have a dichotomy of their thinking now, and it's really kicking off a lot of that victimhood feeling, but it's also causing them to do what Spirit wants, which is withdraw, retreat, go into their caves, and think about things, because they're feeling pressure now from all sides. People aren't allowing them to get away with the victimhood, because even in fact, if you have, like, a BFF, they're going to be the first ones to call you on your bullshit. And people that love you are definitely, sure, they might let you get away with some bullshit fantasy for a while, but after time, they're going to be the first ones to look at you and say, this is all BS, and you're not doing well, and things are falling apart, and you need to pick it up. You need to hold your own. You need to own your BS. And if your situation is so difficult that you feel like a victim, then either get into a new situation or adjust the one you're in so you don't feel like a victim anymore. Now, the cards that I pulled here are what we are most likely to see Cancer DMs going through as the end of May continues to manifest. And I pulled some clarification cards to go with it too. Now, these three cards are the main themes for the masculines this week, or the major lessons that they're going to go through, and the last two are what Spirit hopes to get them to learn, but also where they are likely to be by end of May, beginning of June. And what we have here, we have the Death card, the Page of Wands, and the Six of Pentacles. Now, what I'm feeling most immediately is that to some extent they're going to be reborn from. Okay, I'm going to rephrase that. What Spirit intends to get them to do is to withdraw into the cave and allow their old victim self to die, to shed that layer. And for some, it'll be as easy as Spirit saying, hey, you're not a victim, stop acting like one, and they'll get it. For others, it's going to be a complicated mess. We actually have the Eight of Wands here in reverse for this Death card, which it's about communication, it's about sexuality, it's about boundaries, it's about travel. And in reverse, that's a restriction to a lot of those things. And I like this Alice in Wonderland deck, and especially in this, I mean, they could have a literal dog involved in their life, or it could just be the idea of, kind of a bull in a china shop coming in and just barreling through everything that they thought they had standing up, and that needs to happen. It's been beyond time for it to happen for some of these Cancer divine masculines, and it might be kind of shocking for some of them. Death card moments, I call them phoenix moments too. Oftentimes, the way it happens is that we end up manifesting our own distressing situations so that and it's often subconscious, because consciously we're trying to repress and compartmentalize. Well, we're trying to repress things that should have been compartmentalized, and compartmentalization is meaning we put it on the back burner to deal with it when we have a calmer moment, but it ends up being repression when we don't deal with it. And when it gets repressed, it comes out sideways and it manifests through all sorts of different weird things. Like on the outside, we could be acting like Six of Pentacles, being very giving and lots of charity to the people around us, and we feel like we're being total Robin Hoods about it, but the unconscious people around us don't respond to our words and outer actions. They respond to how we're actually feeling. And if we're repressing things, we're not actually aware of how we're actually feeling. And the very idea of repressing something means that we're not dealing with feelings that need to be dealt with. And that ends up creating situations and circumstances where, one, we want to withdraw, and two, we can't fully withdraw. We end up blowing up. We end up becoming like a phoenix. We internally combust and externally combust, and it all falls down. And I want to say that it doesn't look exactly like these Cancer DMs are going to be very far ahead by the end of May, but getting Page of Wands in there it's definitely a good start. It's still a youthful energy, but it's beyond the Ten of Wands, which is carrying those burdens. And it suggests that they're going to have released a lot of burdens. And because we have the Six of Cups and the Six of Hats in here, this is often associated with a soulmate card, but it's often also a false twin flame, and which is part of why I like that there's a rat in there instead of a dwarf. And if this was upright, it would suggest that either they were reconnecting with the karmic in a good emotional way, or reconnecting with their divine feminine in a good emotional way, or meeting a new one. It's also sometimes reconciliation, but in reverse, that's like the happy feelings have died, the fairy tale is being shed, the reality is being displayed, and all those emotional cups are being kicked over to where it's displayed everywhere. And wands are, not only are they about communication, but they're fire sign elements, which, and also some of these Cancer DMs might have Aries energy or Leo or Sagittarius with them. And even if they don't, they're going to be feeling kind of fiery about it. But because this is page energy, it's probably still going to come out sideways. It might be quiet at times when they should be talking, and they might be talking at times when they should shut up. Either way, it's good that they're here because it shows a rebirth, which is exactly what the Death card is supposed to do, is bring about a new moment. Now, the Six of Pentacles can go either way. This could be a continuation of this karmic situation for them. And oftentimes this card can indicate them turning away from spirit, turning away from their families, turning away from themselves, turning away from their divine femmes, and giving to their karmic situation. And because it's pentacles, the part of their karmic situation could be like workaholism, and it could be third party situation. There are three characters in there, so it's clearly not a full end to the third party situation that a lot of them are in either way. But for some of these divine masculines, it is them returning back to spirit, returning back to themselves, returning back to their families, returning back to their divine femmes. And they've still got some cleanup to do in terms of the karmic and things like that, but they are doing it. You'll have to let me know in the comments below which your divine masculine, which one your divine masculine does, or which one you think that they'll do, but within this last bit of May. Either way, they're going to come out of this rebirth and they're going to try to achieve a greater balance than what they had before, but it's in page energy, so it's kind of a toss-up as to what it'll look like for divine femmes. And for those of you divine masculines who are aware enough to actually watch this, you have an opportunity to, reconnect with spirit, reconnect with yourself, and stop giving your attention to victim mode. This is also a card of victim mode too. I mean, you can be the charitable figure up there, or you can be the one of the two victims down below. Either way, you're caught in an enmeshment, because this can often indicate white knight syndrome, savior syndrome, altruistic narcissism, etc. Either way, it's not done yet. We'll see which side the majority of Cancer DMs end up leaning towards. Either way, we have the Queen of Hearts there. Queen of Cups. Queen of Hats. And my main sense is that this is divine feminine. This is probably you who is watching, and in some shape or form, the Cancer masculines are going to be turning back towards you. Especially if you're willing to listen to spirit and be willing to only invest in them what you're worth. I mean, that doesn't mean go cold on them. It doesn't mean be mean or do any of that stuff. Just, don't give so much of yourself that your cup is drained, and don't be afraid to call them on their BS. Now, what we see towards the end of May, coming into June, is the reversed Four of Pentacles and the Eight of Swords clarified by the Seven of Pentacles. So a lot of, as I said, a lot of these divine masculines with strong Cancer placements are trying to stay focused on work, and they probably do need to focus on money. I know a bunch of Cancer DMs who they are in really crappy financial situations, especially those that are wrapped up in third-party karmic situations, but they're attempting to ignore either leaving or fixing the dynamics that they are in with their karmics that are sucking away all their money, or addressing their spending habits and things like that that are eating away their money. And instead of doing that, they're just trying to make more money, which is just making them feel more victimized. And it's also causing them well, actually, what I'm seeing here is two things. Some Cancer DMs are going to continue in this victimhood mindset to the end of May. But they're going to be reflecting about it. They're going to be drawn into true seclusion by spirit. Oh, goodness. Power went out. Well, that was interesting. As I said that, power went out in my neighborhood, so that's very interesting. What I'm really getting the sense of is that for those divine masculines who end up continuing to try to go for victim mode, they're not just gonna be in the cave. It's gonna be like a blackout for them. And that's part of the Seven of Pentacles there. They're going to be stopping. Sevens are pauses, and it's also wisdom. And it's in that solitude, that isolation, that they might actually see what they're doing and listen to their intuition and recognize that where they are and having their boundaries violated and their money sucked dry, it's not good for them. It's not good for anybody. The other half of what I'm seeing is that some of these Cancer DMs are actually going to have already learned that through this last bit of May, and they're going to feel bad about it. They're going to feel like they have been this miser in reverse, that they have been violating other people's boundaries, over focusing on their work, and it's exhausting them trying to run around and please all the needs of people who are not giving back to their cups and not helping them grow their garden. And they're going to recognize that they have put their divine feminines in this situation in some way. I mean, definitely, divine femme is strong, and they see you as strong, and they know that you don't need them, but they also recognize, even if it's only in their 5D self right now, that they have been putting you in that situation, in that mental bondage, being without them and dealing with them in victim mode. And for, that seclusion either way is going to help enlighten them and get them back into contact with spirit. So definitely, if you're feeling called to withdraw from them a little bit, or to not to not be such a sunshiny ray of light type of empress, don't go diva, but definitely listen, because that's spirit telling you that. Now, I created these cards, which are messages from your person, and we got 3. What we have is, I can tell you are afraid of me and afraid of the consequences of your actions. The longer you avoid it all, the more I see you as a coward, the worst kind. And that one, I actually did that one. It was more coming from a divine feminine perspective, but because I drew these as messages from Cancer DMs, either you did something you've not addressed, and it's eating at them, even though you probably deserve way more uh, accountability from them. The situation could be helped if you address your behavior. Just don't go overboard with it if they're not reciprocating. Second, we got, I'm serious about you and about making us work. And I feel like a kid again when I'm with you. And I just got a hit too, for some divine feminines, this was them. They've said something like that to their masculine. So it's not necessarily them saying it to you. It's that you have said something like that to them, that I can tell that you're being a coward. And the more you avoid this, the more you get seen, not just by me, but by others, as the worst kind of coward. And these masculines, for some, this is their 5D self saying this, and for some, this is their 3D self coming around and being like, you know what, I am serious about making this work, and I'm sorry that I've been a dick about it so far. We'll see, though. It looks like, for the most part, for Cancer DMs to the end of May, it's going to be kind of a continuation of the energy that they have been in. But for those of you divine feminines watching this, don't focus on what is going on right now with them. Focus on the healed them in the future and the healed you in the future, and you work on you in that moment. And when they're being in victim mode, you just leave them to it. Trust that Spirit has a much bigger imagination and a lot more resources than you do in helping them do what they do, or in helping them heal. And if they are with a third party karmic, you know what? Send them prayers of gratitude, because they are likely working some heavy numbers on your masculines, but they're needed for your masculines to get this growth and learn these lessons that they've been avoiding for however long that they've been avoiding them. All right, y'all. Feedback is welcome in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much.